about whether the people of Norway, and I will use your words, Madam Secretary, and you spoke about how they were referred to as, by contrast to the people of Africa and the various countries, the 54 countries of Africa and Haiti, and we speak of them, and you spoke of them, according to the president, as the people of Norway. Well, you know, they work very hard.
And they're smart.
Being the people of the 54 states of Africa and Haiti do not.
Well, they're fucking retards. Otherwise, they'd correct their own fucking country, you stupid bitch.
That is a fair inference. And you run the Department of Homeland Security, and when you say you don't know if Norway is predominantly white, when asked by a member of the United States...
What is this, a fucking attack station?
...about your ability to understand the scope of your responsibilities and the impact of your words, much less the policies that you promulgate in that very important department. You opened by talking about a number of statistics that paint the threats the country faces from terrorism. In particular, you spoke of those who commit acts of terror who are not born in this country. The study you mentioned, however, leaves out some of the most rampant terror attacks that we've seen lately, which are domestic acts of terror. As has been mentioned, there is a report from the FBI and DHS which outlines white supremacist extremists, and I quote, the report says, will likely continue to pose a threat of lethal violence over the course of the next year. The report states that white supremacist extremists are responsible for 49 homicides and 26 attacks from the year 2000 to 2016, more than any other domestic extremist movement, I'm quoting. It is deeply troubling that in your opening comments, when you talk about the threats to our nation, our homeland, to national security, that you failed to mention a report that outlined a very specific threat to us as the American people. Deeply troubled. You must understand the inference, the reasonable inference that the American public is drawing from the words you speak, much less the words of the President of the United States.
You better remember it too, you fucking little cocksucker. You know, you blew your way into politics, literally. And you're sitting up there doing exactly what you did to Jeff Sessions, and that's bully him. And you know what? That should be fucking illegal right there. You should be thrown off that fucking committee and kicked out of fucking Congress for being a fucking cunt.
Now, I'd like to move on and talk about your management of your agency. You and I spoke several times during your confirmation process, both at a personal meeting
and attacked her each and every fucking time.
On November 2nd and in your November 8th confirmation hearing before the Homeland Security Committee. In your confirmation hearing on November 8th, you stated you would issue guidance to your agents stating that DACA recipients and dreamers are not enforcement priorities. Have you done that?
They are not enforcement priorities, ma'am.
Have you issued that statement and that to your agents, that guidance?
That is clear from the...
That's not my question.
I personally have not, no.
You also committed that you would make clear to DHS employees that DACA recipients' information would not be shared for enforcement purposes. Have you done that?
I have verified that. It is not proactively shared. If it's a national security threat, that's a different matter. The DACA information is not proactively provided. I have verified that.
That's not my question. Not have you verified it. That's clear to me.
It's in policy. It's an existing written documentation.
My question, I will repeat, is based on a commitment you made to me.
Why don't you get up and walk across the room and kick her in the fucking head?
I'm saying that written is already exists. So I didn't need to redo it. It already exists.
That is not the point. Have you made that clear?
Yes, I have.
Hundreds of thousands of employees in your department.
Yes, I have had multiple meetings where we have discussed this, and I have clarified again and again. Yes, ma'am.
Issued some kind of directive, written directive, to the hundreds of thousands of employees of your agency.
What, it's got to send out a fucking piece of paper to 100,000 people?
So you've not done that. That's
why would I do it again? It already exists.
Okay, let's talk about why you would do it again. Let's talk about the data that shows that there has been an increase of, I think, threefold of the number of people who are non-criminals by ICE's own definition who have been detained in your department. How do you reconcile your point, which is that it's clear to the agents in your department, when the data supplied by your own agency does not reflect that?
The data that I have has 92% last year being criminals and those with final orders of removal.
And so where we have information that there has been an increase of the number of people, nearly 3 times the number of individuals with no criminal history as compared to the same period last year, are you saying that's incorrect?
I'm saying I don't have the data that you're looking at. Is it final orders of removal, or is there another national security threat?
No criminal history.
That's not what I asked. Is it a final order of removal?
We're talking about the people that you are contacting. Are you prioritizing equally people with no criminal history as you are those who you described earlier as being criminals because they are felons?
We prioritize those with criminal convictions as well as those with final orders of removal.
So my question is, do they have equal priority in your agency?
They're both top-tier priority for enforcement.
Do they have then equal priority?
Ma'am, we're going to enforce the law. If there's a final order of removal, we will seek to remove you.
Since you have several times this afternoon prefaced your responses by saying, to the best of your recollection, just on the first page of your 3 pages of written testimony, you wrote, "Nor do I recall, do not have recollection, do not remember it." So my question is, for any of your testimony today, did you refresh your memory with any written documents, be they your calendar, written correspondence, emails, notes of any sort?
I attempted to refresh my recollection, but so much of this is in a wholesale campaign of extraordinary nature that you're moving so fast that you don't keep notes. You meet people. I didn't keep notes of my conversation with the Russian ambassador at the Republican
I'd like
convention.
to just talk about what you did.
You know, I'm just saying I didn't keep notes on most of these things, and there's nothing for me.
Will you provide this committee with the notes that you did maintain?
As appropriate, I will supply the committee with documents.
Can you please tell me what you mean when you say appropriate?
I would have to consult with lawyers in the department who know the proper procedure before disclosing documents that are held within the Department of Justice.
Attorney General,
I'm not able to make that opinion today.
Sir, I'm sure you prepared for this hearing today, and most of the questions that have been presented to you were predictable. So my question to you is, did you then review with the lawyers of your department, if you as the top lawyer are unaware, what the law is regarding what you can share with us and what you cannot share with us, what is privileged and what is not privileged?
We discussed the basic parameters of testimony. Frankly, have not discussed documentary disclosure rules.
Will you make a commitment to this committee that you will share any written correspondence, be they your calendars, records, notes, emails, or anything that has been reduced at any point in time in writing to this committee where legally you actually have an obligation to do so?
I'll commit to reviewing the rules of the department, and and when that issue is raised, to respond appropriately.
Did you have any communications with Russian officials for any reason during the campaign that have not been disclosed in public or to this committee?
I don't recall it, but I have to tell you, I cannot testify to what was said as we were standing at the Republican convention before the podium where I spoke.
My question is only as
I don't
it
have a
relates to your
detailed memory of that.
Okay, as it relates to your knowledge. Did you have any communication with any Russian businessmen or any Russian nationals?
I don't believe I had any conversation with Russian businessmen or Russian nationals.
Are you aware of any communication?
A lot of people were at the convention. It's conceivable that somebody
Sir, I have just a few.
Will you let me qualify it? If I don't qualify it, you'll accuse me of lying. So I need to be correct as best I can.
I do want you to be honest.
I'm not able to be rushed this fast. It makes me nervous.
Are you aware of any communications with other Trump campaign officials and associates that they had with Russian officials or any Russian nationals?
I don't recall that.
And are you aware of...
At this moment.
Are you aware of any communications with any Trump officials, or did you have any communications with any officials about Russia or Russian interests in the United States before January 20th?
No, I may have had some conversations, and I think I did, with the general strategic concept of the possibility of whether or not Russia and the United States could get on a more harmonious relationship and move off the hostility. The Soviet Union did in fact collapse. It's really a tragic strategic event that we're not able to get along better
Before being sworn in as Attorney General, how did you typically communicate with then candidate or President-elect Trump?
Would you repeat that?
Before you were sworn in as Attorney General, how did you typically communicate with then candidate or President-elect Trump?
I did not submit memoranda. I did not make formal presentations.
Did you ever communicate with him in writing?
I don't believe so.
And you referred to a longstanding DOJ policy. Can you tell us what policy it is you're talking about?
Well, I think most cabinet people, as the witnesses you had before you earlier, those individuals declined to comment because we're all about conversations with the president.
Sir, I'm just asking you about the DOJ
long-standing
policy you referred to.
Policy that goes beyond just the Attorney General.
Is that policy in writing somewhere?
I think so.
So did you not consult it before you came before this committee, knowing we would ask you questions about it?
Well, we talked about it. The policy is based...
Did you ask that it would be shown to you?
The policy is based on the principle that the president...
Sir, I'm not asking about the principle. I'm asking when you would be asked these questions and you would rely on that policy. Did you not ask your staff to show you the policy that would be the basis for you refusing to answer the majority of questions that have been asked of you?
should be allowed to answer the question.
Senators will allow the chair to control the hearing. Senator Harris, let him answer.
Please do. Thank you.
We talked about it, and we talked about the real principle that's at stake. It's one that I have some appreciation for, as having spent 15 years in the Department of Justice, 12 as United States Attorney, and that principle is that the Constitution provides the head of the executive branch certain privileges, and that members, one of them is confidentiality of communications, and it is improper for agents of any department any departments in the executive branch to waive that privilege without a clear approval of the president.
I have asked,
and that's the situation we're in.
For a yes or no. Did you ask?
So the answer is yes. I consulted.
Did you ask your staff to see the policy?
Expired.
Apparently
Senator
not.
Cornyn.
The IC report assessing Russian activities and intentions in recent U.S. elections?
I have.
And do you fully accept its findings, yes or no?
I've seen nothing to cast any doubt on the findings in the report.
And your voting record and stated position on gay marriage and the importance of having a quote-unquote traditional family structure for raising children is pretty clear. I disagree with your position, but of course you're entitled to your opinion. I don't want that, however, to impact your opinion on that matter. The recruitment or retention of patriotic LGBT women and men in the CIA, some of whom have, of course, taken great risks to their lives for our country. Can you commit to me that your personal views on this issue will remain your personal views and will not impact internal policies that you put in place at the CIA?
Senator Harris, you have my full commitment to that. I would only add that in my life as a private businessman, this same set of issues was out there. I had my views at that time as well, and I treated each and every member of the workforce that I was responsible for at those times with the dignity and respect, and demanded of them the same things that I demanded of every other person that was working as part of my team.
And do I have your assurance that this equal treatment will include policies related to child care services, family benefits, and accompanied posts for dependents?
without knowing the full set of policies and benefits at the Central Intelligence Agency, I haven't had a chance to find that out just yet. You have my assurance that every employee will be treated in a way that is appropriate and equal.
And that you will not put in place any policies that would discriminate against any members because of their sexual orientation.
Ma'am, I can't imagine putting in place any policy that was discriminatory with respect to any employee.
Thank you. And I'm also concerned about rhetoric related to Muslims from high-profile members of the incoming administration, in particular Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, with whom I imagine you'll be working closely. I don't want that to impact recruitment or retention of the patriotic and critically important Muslim men and women of the CIA, some, of course, who have taken great risks to serve our country. Can you commit to me that you will be a tireless advocate for all members of the CIA, all of the workforce?
Yes, ma'am.
CIA Director Brennan, who spent a 25-year career at the CIA as an analyst, a senior manager, and station chief in the field, has said that when, quote, CIA analysts look for deeper causes of rising instability in the world, one of the causes those CIA analysts see as is the impact of climate change. Do you have any reason to doubt the assessment of these CIA analysts?
Senator Harris, I haven't had a chance to read those materials with respect to climate change. I do know the agency's role there. Its role is to collect foreign intelligence, to understand threats to the world. That would certainly include threats from poor governance, regional instability, threats from all sources, and deliver that information to policymakers. And to the extent that changes in climatic activity are part of that foreign intelligence collection task, we will deliver that information to you all and to the President.
In the past, you have questioned the scientific consensus on climate change. Nevertheless, according to NASA, multiple studies published in peer-reviewed scientific journals show that 97% or more of actively published climate scientists agree that climate warming trends over the past century are extremely likely due to human activities. In addition, most of the leading scientific organizations worldwide have issued public statements endorsing this position. Do you have any reason to doubt NASA's findings?
Senator, I've actually spoken to this in my political life some. My commentary, most all, has been directed to ensuring that the policies that America put in place actually achieve the objective of ensuring that we didn't have catastrophic harm that resulted from change in climate. I continue to hold that view. I frankly, as the director of CIA, would prefer today not to get into the details of climate debate and science. It seems my role is going to be so different and unique from that. It is going to be to work alongside warriors keeping Americans safe. And so I stand by the things that I've said previously with respect to that issue.
So I'm not clear. Do you believe that NASA's findings are debatable?
So I haven't spent enough time to tell you that I've looked at NASA's findings in particular. I can't give you any judgment about that today.
Can you guarantee me that you will and will have a follow-up conversation on this?
I'm happy to continue to talk about it. Yes, ma'am, of course.
Thank you. Thank you. Secretary Kelly, included in the President's budget is a provision that says, quote, the Secretary of Homeland Security may condition a grant or cooperative agreement awarded by the Department of Homeland Security to a state or political subdivision of a state for a purpose related to immigration, national security, law enforcement, or preventing, preparing for, or protecting against, or responding to acts of terrorism. Specifically, the budget authorizes the Secretary to condition grants on compliance with any lawful request by DHS to detain an alien for a period not to exceed 48 hours. Are you familiar with that?
I'm fairly familiar with it, yes.
I'm sorry?
Fairly familiar with it, yes.
Grants that are subject to new conditions would include the Urban Area Security Initiative, a DHS grant that provided California last year with $124 million to help urban areas prevent, mitigate, and respond to acts of terrorism. This grant supports more than 100 incorporated jurisdictions in 12 counties in the Bay Area of California alone. It supports them to buy equipment, enhance systems, and conduct trainings so that localities can prevent, mitigate, and respond to acts of terrorism. Are you aware of that?
That's a good thing.
Another DHS grant is the State Homeland Security Grant Program that provided California $60.2 million last year to support state, local, and tribal efforts to prevent terrorism and to prepare the nation for threats and hazards that pose the greatest risk to security in the United States. Is that correct?
I wish I had the same document I could read from as you do.
Are you familiar with this grant program in your
I'm
department?
familiar with the grant program.
And are you aware that there are a number of federal courts that have imposed civil liability on local governments for complying with ICE detainer orders that were not supported by probable cause? Can you answer the question?
Am I aware of that?
Yes.
I am.
And in order then to comply with a 48-hour ICE detainer made with no probable cause, wouldn't that force the jurisdiction to choose whether to comply with a federal court ruling or forfeit vital public safety funds that are administered by your department?
I'm not a lawyer, but I think that federal law is federal law, is state law, and if you know, we have a different view of the impact of some of the state rulings, but
well, imagine, sir, if you will, that you were a local law enforcement leader presented with a choice of either complying with federal law that means that you may expose your department and your jurisdiction to civil liability, or forfeiting DHS funds that are designed and intended to help you fight terrorism at a local level. Wouldn't you agree that puts those law enforcement leaders in it's almost a Hobbesian choice?
well, Senator,
How are they supposed to choose?
had you not cut me off, I would have said the same thing you just said. Probably not as eloquently, but I'd have said the same thing you said. I appreciate the fix they're in. I appreciate that they get their legal advice from the state and locals. And below the radar, we work with every police and sheriff department in this country to the degree that they can and are comfortable with.
Secretary Kelly, what do you mean below the radar? They have two choices, and they are accountable. Excuse me, sir. They are accountable to their jurisdiction, to the bodies that may have appointed or elected them, and they have to make choices. What do you mean below the radar?
We talk to them on the telephone,
and what are you instructing them to do when presented with those two choices?
we tell them to whatever they can do within the law, the interpretation, we're willing to work with them.
So are you aware that there are local law enforcement?
Finish once before you interrupt me?
Sir, with all due respect.
With all due respect, Senator.
Are you instructing local law enforcement leaders that they can overlook a DHS or detainer request so they're not exposed to criminal liability?
We talk to them about whatever they're comfortable with, whatever they think they can do within the interpretation of their local attorneys general, as an example, or local lawyers. So
when they're instructed,
once,
excuse
Senator,
me, I'm asking the questions.
But I'm trying to answer the question.
When they tell you, as I know, local police chiefs are being told that it would expose their municipality.
That's a fucking Democrat fucking cunt.
If they comply with the detainer request.
And this is what they're going to put forth in 2020. This fucking liberal fucking cunt. Can you believe her? She thinks she is fucking hot shit. Somebody needs to take her down a few pegs. Let's look into her past a little bit. Find out how she sucked her way into politics by sucking dick. Yeah, and fucked over her job over in California as prosecutor by being a fucking corrupt politician. Yeah, this bitch is something special.
Are you telling them that you will not withhold the DHS federal funding that they rely on?
Okay, before I start to answer, will you let me finish?
If it's responsive to the question, of course.
We talk to them on the phone and tell them whatever they're comfortable with, whatever they can do within the interpretation of their local lawyers or legal advisors, we'll work with them.
So are you willing to then not withhold federal funding when police chiefs tell you that they cannot comply with the detainer request because they've been told by their lawyer that they will expose their jurisdiction or their department to civil liability?
I'm willing to work with them in any way I can within the law, federal and local law, whatever they're comfortable with. I don't make threats to people, Senator.
Thank you. About who this tax bill helps. If your estate is worth more than $5.5 million, under this tax plan, you'd pay a lot less taxes on that estate.
You are not entitled to any of the money that, or property that my grandpa put together. Okay? You want to take 46% of what my father already paid taxes on till the fucking day he died, and give it to the government to decide what to do with it? Fuck you.
If you're the top 0.1% of Americans, you'd get almost $100,000 in tax cuts per year.
That's a lie. Well, even if it's true, who do you think creates the fucking jobs, you fucking cunt?
If you run a corporation, this plan permanently cuts corporate tax rates from 35% to 20%.
That was awesome. That is awesome. And then when you Democrats try to go to these corporations and ask for money for your donation to your campaign, you know what they're going to tell you to do, bitch? They're going to tell you to pound sand. That's why you don't have any money in your coffers. That's why nobody's donating any money to you. You are a dead fucking party.
Even though corporate profits have gone up, and while
corporate profits go up because that's what fucking free market is. If you want socialism, I'll buy you your ticket for you and your whole fucking family, Kamilla, to move over to Iran or Venezuela or Puerto Rico or any fucking country of your choosing. And then you can see what a democracy and a republic is not.
Wages for working Americans stagnated. And I want to be clear. In this great country, we celebrate success. We don't want to...
We celebrate success, so we just tax the living fucking shit out of them, right?
Penalize those who have done well. But we also believe that folks who have been blessed can contribute a bit more to paying for the things that...
Why? Who the fuck are you to tell me who I should give my money to? I think I'm an intelligent human being, and I think I can decide my own fucking charity. You are not my fucking mommy. You are not my fucking daddy. And you are certainly not my representative.
Benefit us all. And I don't think it's fair to jack up the deficit or pull the rug out from the middle class to give a bit more to those who already have so much.
Look at the guy in back of her. You can just see it on his face. He's going, what is this bitch fucking talking about?
So here's my suggestion. Instead of giving corporations a big tax cut, let's give the middle class a real tax cut.
In case you didn't know, they got one. We got one. My paycheck went up by $100 today. What is this? January 16, 2018. My company gave us all bonuses. $1,000, man, for fucking no other reason than they believe in what my president is doing. President Trump, not Pimp Boy. Walmart, 168 other companies all gave raises, all gave bonuses, and it just like a domino effect is everybody's getting on board with this. So this video will not age well for Kamilla Harris in 2018 elections and 2020 run for president.
Instead of giving Americans most fortunate more tax breaks, let's ask them to make a contribution a little bit more to help invest in infrastructure and
my tampon's too tight.
Job training and making college affordable. Instead of playing politics with people's lives, let's listen to the American people who have spoken loud and clear. Let's listen to Americans like the teacher from Irvine who wrote me and said, quote, the 1% do not need this tax benefit. They need to pay more of their fair share.
They need to pay more? They earned their fucking money, you fucking cunt. You know, if you're stupid enough to work at a hamburger stand for $8 an hour when there's a cement job across town that pays $22 fucking an hour, that your dad had taught you how to do cement, and you don't go for that fucking $22 an hour job, then who's the stupid fucker here? You are.
We need to preserve what's left of the middle class and make it possible for others to achieve that status.
You spent the last fucking 10 years destroying the middle class. Don't talk to me or any American, whether white, black, or green, or yellow, about destroying America. You and your fucking pimps in the Democrat Party have spent 30 fucking years destroying America. We are back, sweetheart, and we are back strong, and we will unseat your ass and see you gone.
It's regrettable that our colleagues have not voted to reject this bill. I truly believe this does not reflect the best of who we are as a country. Thank you.
Thank you.
Go pound sand, Kamilla.